stuff on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the one Eagles thing I wear. There is an Eagle. There is an Eagle.
Company with an R? Robat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are cool. All right, guys, ready?
What went wrong in the second half against Tampa, from your perspective?
Yeah, so the second half, I mean, when you look at the game as a whole, we started off the game like we wanted to. We had good pace, good rhythm. We got it going. And I think really sometimes when you evaluate games after the fact, there's obviously things we want to work on to get better, and we know we can be critical of as a staff, that we know we can continue to improve. So I think stepping out of it and looking at it, there were some things, just I felt like at times we were just trying to do what we kind of wanted to. And looking back, I think there's some things we can change as far as how we want to approach that situation. But really, it just comes down to just learning from each situation. We've had very unique games to this point, and so I think it's been good to go through that. Early in the season, we've played really, really good defenses, and we've had to adjust accordingly, whether it's second half, whether it's come out in the first half and do different things to try to throw them off. And so I think really it's been a good learning process for us early now, as a coaching staff and players to kind of continue to grow as an offense.
How do you approach your communication with A.J. Brown and handling his perspective?
AJ and I have a great relationship just throughout the years, being here. We spent a lot of time together. So, as far as communication and getting to him, him and I have had no problem. And I know where, his heart is, where he lies. He wants to win. So he feels like he can do everything and anything to help us at all times. So, as far as I'm concerned, him and I are in a good spot.
There's been a lot of focus on the kind of routes AJ has run this year. Are you using him differently than you have in past years? And do you agree with some of the criticism that he's running the same route a lot?
I think at times, if you look through the first 4 games, he's been doing some different stuff. And sometimes, we've talked about it before, sometimes the ball finds him and sometimes it doesn't. So going into every game, you plan on making sure he's the primary and moving around and doing stuff for him. And if it doesn't go his way, that means usually we're on rhythm or something good's happening and Jalen's reading it out and it's going to other guys, and that can happen. So I think when you go into it, you just want to make sure like, hey, he's the guy, we're going through him, and if it happens, it happens, and you just don't want to really force it.
Through the quarter of the season, what would you say your offensive identity is?
I think, similar to last year, early in seasons, you're trying to figure out, first you're trying to do what you have to do to win the game, right? And we've played 4 teams, arguably, like if you looked at last year, you would say, okay, the Chiefs was a tough test for us. The Rams was a tough test twice last year. And then this past week, obviously Tampa, throughout the history against Tampa, it's not been easy down there, right? It's been tough. So we've had our moments against them. So I think you're trying to do everything you can independently within those game plans to win the game. And so when you're doing that, you're trying to feel your way through it. Like, okay, last week it was this week it was that. And so I think we're starting to feel some things that we have kind of going that's kind of flowed throughout a few games now. And so I think it's just building on that because each defense in each week presents something totally new. And this week we're playing another really good defense, top tier, really good front rushers. The secondary is good. So I think there's some things we've learned that like, okay, this is a little different than last year, or, we're kind of continuing on this path, so let's push this a little bit. But I think you just got to look at each game independently, and then you start to see patterns as you start to build throughout the season. And it's great that it's happening now, and not later, and we're playing these tough defenses now to kind of figure this out as we go.
Going back to the second half, it looked like they ran a more simulated pressure in the second half. Do you think that was part of the issue?
I wouldn't say that was the issue. We couldn't get out of first down, and obviously that starts with us as a staff to try to make sure we're more productive on first down and just kind of go from there. I wouldn't say there's anything that they did to us necessarily that was totally different or out of line with what Todd likes to do. We just got caught in situations where he could start to do the things that he likes to do. And in the first half, we were able to not really encounter that because we were on the attack and we got in a good mood to where we were just kind of moving the ball in a good flow.
What's your concern level over the running game through 4 games?
It's funny. I know a lot of the guys have talked about it too. We've been so close on so many runs, and I still think we're still trying to feel our way out, as far as who we are. Each game, especially this first 4, right? We had so much history with these teams, so they know our personnel. They know a lot of things that we've done in the past. So you're trying to feel out like, okay, this has been good against them in the past. Is it still? Do we need to do things new? So I think there's still a feeling out process, and we've been really close. Stout does an unbelievable job with the O-line. The guys are so good on game day about communication with me. Saquon's been unbelievable, and I know they're wanting it to happen so bad, but at the same time, we just don't want to. You don't want to force it because you don't want to have like, okay, we got to hit some home runs. But at times when we need to run it, we've done a decent job of picking up yards in critical moments. It happened the other day in a few spots where we kind of needed some yards. We ran the ball a little bit. It happened, throughout the second half. We needed some yards in the Rams game just because we were on the ball so much. So I think when we need it, we've had it. We just got to continue to look at, okay, where is this going, and what it looks different, right? Each year looks different. So I think that's a piece of it too.
You look at the last couple of games. What do you make of the stark difference from half to half in each of them?
Yeah, so obviously the Rams game, right? First half didn't go what we want. In the second half, we were able to do things differently and get it going. And then the Buccaneers game was the opposite, right? We got off to a hot start. We're in a good pace with the offense, a good rhythm, and it was flowing, and things were just kind of happening as we kind of anticipated and the way we wanted to put the pressure on them. And the second half, we just got off rhythm, right? And so when you get off rhythm, you're kind of searching for that play to kind of get the spark and get back in phase, and we just didn't really get back in phase.
Are there buttons in that? Sorry, Tim. Are there buttons in when you're off rhythm that you can push, that you like to lean on, and why weren't?
And I think that's part of the process we're going through, right, as a staff and as a team throughout this first 4 games is finding what that is. Like I said, there's some things that we know a little bit, like, okay, this is starting to pop up that we know we're excelling at a little bit, and so I think as we go, we'll start to figure out that more.
What's it like managing so many high-end players? You have Devontae and you have AJ and you have Dallas and you have Saquon, and not all teams around the league have that,
Yeah.
which obviously is largely a good thing, but also there are some residual effects, I guess, if somebody's not involved the way that they want to be. What is that like from where you sit?
So I think, first of all, like you said, it's a great problem, right? Because some teams don't have what we have. So it is a great problem. And really, the guys have been great with me. I've been around here for a while, so obviously I know them a little bit differently, but they all want to win, and that's the number one thing. They all want to win. They'll do anything for the team to win. So, whether it's somebody's getting the ball, somebody's not, when you watch it at times, there's guys being excited for other guys when they're making plays. And that's all we can really ask for is just like, hey, we all want to win. We're on the same page. We know it may be different from play to play or from game to game, but we want to win.
Kevin, I'm looking at the
Within that contribution as a former passing game coordinator and wide receiver coach, is there something inherent about the wide receiver position where it's dependent on targets to contribute, where it makes it a little bit different to manage?
That is a very unique position, right? Coaching both quarterbacks and receivers and being around those guys for a long time. The receivers, there's so many different values that they add, right? There's a lot of role players within that room. There's guys that are the alpha males that are, your target guys. And then there's guys that, they can impact games just by something happening and by clearing a route out. So I think when you go into games, those guys all want to impact it because they can, right? They can make one play and flip the script really, really fast within a game. So it's a fun group, right? Those guys are usually the guys that are the lively guys and excited and all that kind of stuff. So, when you're around those guys, you feel their energy and they can change the game, right? You look around the NFL, that's a lot of those groups are like that.
Jeff, Kevin, I know I don't know if your numbers are the same of what I have here, but it seems you guys are like 6th most in terms of runs up the middle, and yet I think you're near the bottom. 31st is what I have here, 2 yards per carry up the middle. What have been the issues with getting runs up the middle? Why have you guys not been able to run there?
I think we've been, constantly looking at that from week to week. And some weeks we go into it saying, like, look, if we're up the middle, whether it's, a gap scheme or a zone scheme, our angles can be good. And then what's the reason why it's not happening? So I think that's something we're constantly looking at and trying to evaluate. And sometimes when you can pack the box a little bit, you can get better angles. And sometimes, depending what the defense calls, it doesn't materialize like you anticipate. So I think we're still working on that, working through that, but it's definitely something, we got to keep in mind.
How big a challenge has things been for the offensive line, whereas Lane's been in and out? Landon came into the season banged up. Tyler's new there.
Yep.
How big of a challenge has it been for the offensive line, and do you think that's impacted the running game at all?
I think, with everything, it's always going to be new from year to year, week to week, game to game. And that is a piece of it, right? But when you look at it, like Stout has those guys always prepared. That is one thing we know. So if something does happen, obviously we know we're in a good spot with everybody. And, we have elite players in certain spots. And, Lane is an unbelievable player. And when we have guys come in for him, Fred's done a good job when he's had to step up. And so you obviously miss those guys when they're not in. But as far as like the next man up, we've done a good job of getting those guys ready. But it is different. It has looked different this year compared to last year. We were a little more steady in those spots. So I think throughout time, we'll continue to work on that and see where it goes.
A tush-push question, if I can.
Yep.
The variations of the play, how will that change the way defenses play you And then also Dallas Goedert said that that touchdown was in the playbook for 4 years. You just called it for the first time. Is that abnormal, or is there a big collection of plays that you have that you are waiting for the right opportunity to call?
A little bit of both, right? Those plays are fun to call. Everybody gets excited when they're in the game plan. You know they're going to call them. So we've kind of been waiting for opportunities to get those called, and it does, right? It puts more stress on the defense. So now they have to honor other things. Obviously, you can see what happened on Saquon's touchdown, right? There was nobody there. So it helps you, kind of game plan and have things off of, plays off of plays, basically. And some of those plays have kind of been talked about before, and they've been around, but to get them into a game plan and get them called is the ultimate goal. And we were able to do that, and that should help us going forward. And they're fun to call, right? The energy of everybody when those things get called is great.
Kevin, you were asked earlier about having big personalities like Devontae,
Mhm.
AJ, big playmakers to kind of appease or get the ball to. How has Jalen handled all of that? How does he kind of approach that when it comes to making sure everyone gets theirs?
He does a good job. I think ultimately now with him being, in our 5th year together with Nick and the whole staff, I think he understands now where his role, where he is, and he's comfortable with it. And a lot of us have been around together. So I think, he's just trying to do everything he can to win games at this point. And it is awesome. It's a great problem to have. So, you always look at it as something really, really good when you have all these guys wanting to impact the game to win the game.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.